What is your topic of what are your topic of interest? What are your topic of interest for research, and what are you currently working on? So this question is a bit weird. Your place. Here's a question. Why did Shafi produce so much saliva for your experiment? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be my first ever Q&A video for PhD questions, where I asked you guys on Instagram to send me some questions relating to PhD, and you guys did not disappoint, so thank you for that. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The first question is, I think life is short, and how do you get time to do your PhD? Well, so in order to do a PhD, you really have to think it through before, because it's a long commitment. I did think it through, and I thought, you know what, I'm not working professionally, I don't really want to have a corporate job, so this PhD sounds right up my alley. It's going to give me 45 years of actually thinking time. I didn't think it so much as this is such a waste of life and there's not enough time in this world. I just thought it'll give me 45 years to actually think about what I really want to do. And that's what I was struggling in before I got into my PhD. So life is short, but you can honestly prioritize anything you want to do. And if you have any real passions, you should really pursue them. And also you can make time for anything. You can make time to see your friends. You can always make time. You just have to want to be able to do it. So this question is a bit weird. Your place. Can I do a PhD? Of course you can. I honestly believe that anyone can do a PhD. But the thing is, not everyone can do a PhD in a specific subject. Say, for example, biomedical engineering. Not everyone can do a PhD in that just because they don't have the interest and the skill set to be able to do that. But there is a PhD out there for everyone. So yes, of course, you can do a PhD. What is your topic of what are your topic of interest? What are your topic of interest for research, and what are you currently working on? So my topic of interest for research is biomaterials and producing biomaterials made from polymeric nanofibers and other types of fibers. That's the current research. What am I currently working on? Well, currently I'm at the finishing end of my PhD, so I'm not necessarily working on something for my PhD, but my PhD does focus on producing wound healing biomaterials that are not only antimicrobial, but also reduce the healing times or improve the healing quality. So advanced wound care manufacturing. Another question, what is your specific research field? I think I've answered this. So it is biomaterials and biomedical engineering. So producing biomaterials from polymeric materials in order to be used for many different biomedical applications, such as tissue engineering, wound healing, drug delivery, and stuff like that. Here's a question. Why did Shafi produce so much saliva for your experiment? So this question doesn't make sense on its own, but we have to bring you back around 5 or 6 or 7 years, I don't know how long it's been since my undergraduate project, where actually in my undergraduate project I had one of the only few projects where I had human live volunteers, and essentially I was measuring and this is how fun it was. So my project was to measure the levels of cortisol and see if they changed in response to emotional stress. So I devised a lecture hall where I played a YouTube video of something that was supposed to be really sad, and I took people's saliva before and after so that I could measure the cortisol levels. And this guy, my friend, is now actually a doctor, so congratulations to him. He had to produce a bit of saliva in this test tube. However, he filled it up almost to the max, and everyone was just looking at him like it was crazy. And I really don't know why he produced so much saliva, but I guess his salivary glands were more active than the others. Or maybe he just was a very or maybe he was just a very very dedicated person to the saliva game. In either case, I don't know why he produced so much saliva. What are you studying, and how did you enroll in your PhD program? So, like I'm going to say again, my PhD is in biomaterials and biomedical engineering, and the way in which I enrolled into my PhD program is because I knew my supervisor from before. I actually did a master's in biomaterials and tissue engineering, which was his course that he ran, his master's course, and he actually selected me through doing this course because I got the top of the class, and he just saw an interest in me and he offered a PhD to me. If I did not get in through this route, I would have had to apply to different supervisors and go through the process, but it was much easier for me because I knew the supervisor. So I do highly recommend, actually, if you want to get into a PhD, you contact the supervisor directly. Sometimes they will even have a PhD that's not advertised on the website, so it's always good to, if you're interested in a specific supervisor, to go up to them, to email them, to arrange a meeting with them and ask them, do they have any PhDs? And that could probably be the best route, because at the end of the day, supervisor is a very, very integral and important component of your PhD. Someone asked, a medical student, question mark. No, I'm not a medical student. However, there might be some little confusion between a PhD and a medical student, just because at the end of their degrees, at the end of their courses, after they become accredited, they become a doctor. However, medical doctor is very different from a PhD doctor, just because medicine is more specialized in a specific field. It's the field of medicine, where a PhD, you can get a PhD in pretty much anything. So there's a big difference there. How do you keep yourself motivated? I specifically keep myself motivated. There's a video on that on my channel, so if you want to check that out, you can see how I keep motivated. But in an alternative answer, I'm going to say that I keep myself motivated because I feel an intense burn inside of me telling me that I need to make something of my life. And if I don't listen to it, it just becomes deep. It just becomes harder and harder. You know, it just makes me feel really bad. And that's pretty much what keeps me motivated. I feel like if you want to really keep motivated, and if you want to be motivated for long periods of time, you're just going to have to ask yourself the question, like, why are you doing it? What do you want to achieve? Like, what are your life values that you actually want to fulfill? And maybe that's what's going to keep burning inside of you to keep you motivated. But other than that, there's so many techniques that you can have on YouTube. But at the end of the day, if you're motivated from within, you don't really need motivation to do it. Someone asked, do you regret it? I actually do not regret it. It's probably one of the better things I've done. It's given me so much experience, so many new skills, met so many people, given me a different way of thinking, and I feel like at the end of it, I will get a whole PhD out of it, and that is something I can carry with me throughout life. And yes, I just generally do not regret it. Follow-up question is, no, I meant, when did you regret it? Okay. I did not actually regret it at all, but if I were to pick a point where I've regretted the most, it would probably have been in the beginning, when it's very, very difficult. Most people do want to quit in the beginning just because it's so hard and it's a new, unfamiliar territory. However, because I did my master's, I knew what I was in for, so I honestly did not regret it. What does it take to do a PhD? Well, it takes commitment, it takes resolve, it takes emotional brain power, it takes working hard, and it takes consistency to do a PhD. How does one get into a PhD program? So one can apply through official means by going on a website, find my PhD, find a PhD that is officially being advertised, that usually has a stipend, which is amazing, and then you go through that process. You'll probably have an interview with the director or the supervisor, and you'll get into that way. Otherwise, like I said, you can actually email the supervisor directly and ask them if they have any available PhDs, and they might reply, and that probably is the second best way to do it. What is a PhD? Okay. So PhD actually kind of stands for Doctorate of Philosophy. It's a term coined for a doctorate, which is one of the highest, if not the highest, higher education qualification that you can get. And it generally means that you've spent a good amount of years focusing on one specific subject in order to advance it for the sake of human being, for the sake of science, for the sake of culture. So basically that's what a PhD is. How many letters are there in PhD? I don't know how many letters there are. I probably need a PhD in PhD to answer that question, so I'm just gonna have to pass on that question. Does Dave have a PhD? So Dave is our mutual friend with my friend Matt, who actually is in one of my videos. If you want to go check that out, he's a medical doctor and I'm a fake doctor, Neely, for a PhD, and we had like a kind of a discussion and the comparison between that. Dave's a mutual friend who isn't really a friend. It doesn't make sense, but no, Dave does not have a PhD and Dave does wish that he had a PhD. How many years does it take to complete? So a PhD typically takes between 4 and 5 years in the UK, where some exceptional students might finish in 3 years. However, this is more commonly not regularly seen, as before maybe 3 years, but typically 4 to 5 years is how long it takes to complete a PhD. Generally, it's not about the time span, it's more about the output and the work that you produce within those years. So technically you could finish a PhD in 2 years. However, because of like the university's rules and stuff, you don't really see that, just because there's so many reasons, and the universities don't want lots of people to finish in 2 years, otherwise it will kind of diminish the kind of expectations of how long you should spend on a PhD, which is fairly and rightfully so. So many questions. What opportunities could it avail to you? Well, doing a PhD can give you many opportunities, but in some regards it might close some other opportunities, which is good for you because you don't want to consistently be at a lower position where you could have gotten with just an undergraduate degree or a master's degree. A PhD provides you so many different skills, and that's actually a video that you can actually see on my channel, so it's probably one of my last videos, so go check that out, what kind of skills you gain from your PhD. But because of the transferable skills you gain from your PhD, you can apply that to start at even a higher position. You can start in multiple different industries, such as finance, consulting. You can start in industry. So for me, biomedical industries, you can start pharmaceutical companies because of all the skills that you learn. So it does open many, many different doors, and especially you can work for yourself after gaining all the skills that you have from your PhD. Need to learn new things? Yes. Yes, you do. Or I do as well. I don't know if that was a question. Is it hard doing it at a young age as you don't have much experience? I don't think age is a huge factor in this. It goes both ways. If you're young, it's easier because at a younger age, you're more active, you take in things easierly, if that even makes sense. I just don't think age is a disadvantage, especially if you have experience. For me, I did my master's there, so I had 1 year of experience already. So for that reason, I didn't find it difficult. However, people that I do know that are doing PhD, maybe they didn't do a master's and they find it very difficult. So yeah, age can be a disadvantage, but you don't necessarily have to let age be a disadvantage, because you can gain the experience whilst doing your PhD. Maybe the first year will be difficult, but the rest of the years will not be so difficult. Do you recommend it before having a job? So PhD before and after a job, it really does not matter. If you want to do it before a job, I probably would recommend it before a job, but either way, it does not make a difference, because if you do it after a job, you have that industrial experience that could actually help your PhD. If you do it before your job, you will just be younger, and when you do get into the job market, you'll just have more time to think and more time to make risks. So it actually doesn't matter either way. If you want to do it as soon as possible, then I recommend that. And if you want to spend time in industry, if you want to spend time working and gain the money and the savings, then do that too, because it honestly does not matter when you do a PhD. I want to do it, but I'm scared I can't. I'm a business student and never work in a company. Well, fear is one of those things that stops us from doing many things, and also a title of one of my videos, which you should go out and check. We are all scared, but as soon as we get out of our comfort zone, great things happen to us. Most of the people that are deemed successful in the world have kind of disregarded their fear, so don't let anything be an excuse. It doesn't matter if you have any experience in a job or not. You should be able to do it if you put your mind to it, and if you want to, tackle the challenge that is a PhD, you should do it, because honestly, it will change your life, and the skills that you gain from it will definitely give you a different perspective in life, that's for sure. So I'm like, do I do a PhD or should I start working? It really is up to you. You really should think it through, your situation. Why do you want to do a PhD? Is a PhD really going to be adding any value to what you want to do long term? Because ultimately, if you wanted to become a skier or a professional athlete, then a PhD doesn't really help in that regard. So you really have to think about what it is, if it's right for you, if the PhD is for you, if it's going to add value, or if it's going to get you where you want to be at your end goal, or at least along the way. Where did you do your PhD? So I did my PhD, and I'm currently doing my PhD at University College London, also known as UCL, which is a great university in London. It is near Euston Station, near Goose Street Station, and also Euston Square Station, if you really want to know the exact location. But it's a great university in around central London, and it is one of the top 10 universities in the world. Great, amazing university. What advice would you give to people who want to do a PhD in the UK? Well, I'm guessing this question is from someone who is not currently in the UK, but my advice is to definitely apply for a scholarship, because otherwise the tuition fees in the UK for international students is incredibly high, and also the rent and expenses is going to be incredibly high, so you're going to have to get your financials sorted. The second thing is apply. Just keep applying. It's very competitive, but you have to keep applying, and when you get in, just enjoy the process really. How can I get admission for a PhD in the UK? So for this, I don't know the specifics, but you're going to have to apply to international scholarships, and it's going to be very competitive, but you're going to have to keep doing it. And if you really want to, passion has to bleed through. You have to have a really good personal statement, you have to have really good reasons and a story. Essentially, someone out there, someone kind, will give you a scholarship and you can get into the UK. I don't know the specifics. Maybe you have to get a certain visa, or maybe you have to get sponsored. I don't know the specifics, but I do know that it's worth applying over and over again. Do you think it's worth to do a PhD? So great final question. I do think it's worth to do a PhD, but I don't think it's for everyone. Just as I would say that I don't think a degree is the right thing for everyone, even though I advocate degrees for everyone because I think it's so important. So personally, yes, I do think PhD is worth it, just because it gives you the skills, it gives you the knowledge, and it gives you the perspective of having studied something for 45 years, something very specific, and knowing that even though you've studied so much, you've barely make a dent of it. And that's what science is. It's about people working on their specific little areas and then collaborating and sharing that information. And even though they work in such a small specific area, you're adding and contributing to major discoveries that usually happen by chance. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you found this video useful, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Did I just say that? God. And as always, thank you for watching.